Hey New Cove, welcome to day 27 of our Lent Devotional. Today's passage is Hebrews chapter 4, verse 14 through chapter 5, verse 4. And if you haven't read the passage yet today, I'd encourage you to take a minute or two to do so. The book of Hebrews was written to a community of Jewish Christ followers who were experiencing intense persecution because of their newfound faith in Jesus. And the author has written them to show them how Jesus is so much superior to all the elements of Old Testament Judaism. And he wants to do that to encourage them to stay faithful to Jesus even in the midst of their difficult circumstance. In today's passage, the author is presenting Jesus as the great high priest. Now, under the Old Covenant, in the Old Testament, the people of Israel had to relate to God through a series of food and animal sacrifices that were offered both daily and annually in the temple in Jerusalem. And the high priest, who was head over all the other priests, was the only one who was allowed to make the annual sacrifice for the sins of the people. So the author says that Jesus is superior to any other high priest that ever was for two reasons. The first one is that Jesus was able to go where no other high priest could ever go. Each year on the Day of Atonement, the high priest would offer the sacrifice for the sins of the people, and then he would enter the most holy place in the temple to intercede for the people of God. But the author tells us that Jesus didn't just go into the temple, he went into heaven itself, into the very presence of God, when he made his sacrifice for our sins once and for all. So because of that, his sacrifice and his priesthood is way better than any priesthood or sacrifice that a human could have offered us. The second thing that the author tells us is that Jesus understands our weaknesses. Now, of course, the human priests, they understood what it was like to be tempted, and in fact, the very next paragraph in the passage here talks about that. But the point the author is trying to make is that Jesus understands, maybe even better than they do, what it's like for us to be tempted. And here's why. When we're tempted, we usually don't experience the full force of what temptation might have to offer us because we usually give in at some point. But the author tells us that Jesus was tempted in every way that we have been. He knows what all those temptations are like, but he never sinned. So what that means is he experienced the full brunt of everything that temptation could bring at him, and he never gave in. And because of that, he probably knows even more what it's like to be tempted than we do, which is wonderful because it means that he understands what we're going through when we're tempted, and he has compassion on us. So because Jesus is a better high priest than any other high priest, the author tells us we can have great confidence when we approach God in prayer. We don't have to wonder what it is that we'll experience when we go to him in prayer. We can know, because of Jesus' superior high priesthood, that we'll experience God's mercy and his grace to help us in our time of need. So I don't know what difficult thing you're having to trust God with right now, but we all have something. But I want to encourage you to take that issue before God today in prayer. And here's why. He totally understands what it is that you're going through. He's ready to hear what you have to say. And he's more than eager to give you the grace that you need to continue on. Jesus' sacrifice and his priesthood is guarantee for us that that's what we'll experience when we approach God. And so my hope for you all is that you would experience the grace of God today.